Alrighty, we're here with Cara Bognar, founder and CEO of Top Tier Lessons, uh, TTL, which is the new GTL, Gym Tan and Laundry. So sorry about that, but Cara, super, really, really cool business that might not have even been possible if we were talking 5, 10 years ago. So really, really cool what you're doing. But thank you much for joining, Cara. How you doing today?
Good, good. How are you, Max? And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure. I'm good. After this, we're gonna do a swimming race, and you're gonna kick my ass. So this
Ooh,
will be perfect.
yeah,
But
I was about to say I don't know how I feel about your odds there, but we can always see.
yeah, exactly. No, I learned to swim at some point, but it didn't progress to racing beyond that, except for gym class. But anyway, really excited to talk top tier lessons. But before that, I joke with the acronym at the start, but another acronym that has like totally changed everything in the past 5 years is NIL. So can you give a little, just a quick rundown of like how big of a factor the name, image, and likeness change has been for college athletes in recent years?
Yeah, of course. And so, for those of you that don't know, NIL was this new bill, essentially a new legislation that was introduced in 2021 that allowed college student athletes to monetize and profit off of who they are and all of their own likeness that they're able to actually put out into the world. So, NIL is the reason why now you can go ahead and you can buy jerseys and t-shirts that have the college athletes on it, and they can actually receive royalties from the sales of those items. And so pre NIL, college athletes really weren't able to do anything that had to do with either using their own branding, using the school's branding, anything in that space. And then automatically in 2021, all of that was opened up. So it reached almost $1 billion market in just the first year. So it was a huge shift into college athletics. And I mean, it's been continuously evolving ever since.
Yeah, it's a game changer. Like it's something that I know was being talked about for a long, long, long time, and there was like always the debate growing up, and probably for decades before that of just like should college athletes get paid? Like are they student athletes, athletes? Like what? There's a whole matzo ball to unravel there, but
There
but
really is. And I mean, it's not going away anytime soon, right? Those conversations are all still happening and just even at a higher level at this point.
yeah, and it's like now that like we've progressed to this point, it's like a whole amount of other questions. So, really crazy and fascinating stuff. But just from your experience as a D1 athlete, like, um, what was your experience and maybe some of your friends or teammates' experience in terms of how NIL kind of impacted the day to day for you?
So for us, it didn't when it was first introduced, right? We turned around and we were like, wow, this is going to completely change everything about college athletics, about me, about our career, about our sports. What's it going to look like? And we quickly realized that it really wasn't built for us, right? I am a swimmer, so I came from a non-revenue sport. We don't have an already existing fan base. There's not people lining up to go buy a t-shirt with Bogner on the back,
Hey,
right? So
I
that
need to
stuff,
stop you right there because I would,
of course.
especially after I beat you later. But yeah,
Fair enough, fair enough. But for us, it just really didn't change a lot. So that's actually a little bit why the company I founded, Top Tier Lessons, came about, because we weren't happy with the way NIL was. It wasn't equitable, it wasn't accessible for all college athletes across the country. And so we turned around and we said, well, how can we bridge that gap? How can we turn NIL into something that works for all college athletes, allows them to monetize doing what they love on their own time without turning them into an influencer, without having them be that top 1% of the sport.
so that is an incredible little teaser to something that has to do with your business. So let's get to top tier lessons. And again, like awesome idea. Really excited to dive into it. Anything that combines sports and business is awesome. And then when you you infuse the combination of like kids learning sports while also like kind of like finding new heroes and mentors and college athletes. And there's money into it as well as really, really, really cool. So that was a very poor way of describing what your business is. But um, before we get into like the thick of it, what was the first moment that you went from kind of this like, oh, NIL is a little different than we thought to like, hey, there's an opportunity to start a business here?
Honestly, it was really a slow ramp. It was starting from the very beginning where I was like, hey, this is cool, but like, what are we actually going to do with it? To the point where I started getting introduced to this entire concept of entrepreneurship. I didn't know what that was before then. I was a sophomore. I was just turned 19 years old. I was in college. So I was learning and discovering everything going on. And I actually had a tradition where two of my teammates, one of them was a year older and the other one 2 years older. We would have weekly dinners on Thursday where we had a goal and we were going to try the most craziest random campus restaurants we could potentially find around town. And it was at those dinners that I started diving into NIL and we started talking about it. And what could this be? How do you collectively utilize not just an individual athlete's branding, but capitalize on the branding of the university and the brand that's already been created for them in a way that allows them to actually use it? And so it was really honestly at those Thursday night dinners where we probably should have gotten kicked out of the restaurant because we were so loud. And we were jumping back and forth and really just having a great time. But that's what we talked about. And so that's really where the business started to gain traction, get on its feet with what could this be from just this idea of a problem that we had at the start into turning it into something that is more solution oriented once we find a way to surmount that problem and move the needle forward. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say there's specifically one instance. There's been hundreds of instances along the entire life cycle from ideation to the business to growth to scale, continuing that moment forwards that we've seen. And each one is kind of what keeps us going to allow us to make it to the next step.
And most importantly, what is the one can't miss meal at Illinois campus?
All right, the Don Don noodles at Midsummer Lounge. If you ever go there, oh yeah, it's very specific, and I can't even bring myself to order anything else from there because it is just so good. And I've it's a very common dish, so I've had it in all over the country because I always order it, and nothing has topped Midsummer Lounge's version of it. So would highly recommend if you ever find yourself in Champaign, Illinois, Green Street, go to Midsummer Lounge. Shameless plug for them always.
Would you say what type of noodle is it called?
Don Don noodles.
Oh, that's new to me. What makes a don don noodle?
I don't know. Definitely chili oil, peanuts, beef, noodles.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
That
some green onions, some scallions chopped on top. I mean, it's a pretty basic staple, but it's like a slight bit of spice, not a lot, but enough to kind of have some good flavor in it.
so the noodles were obviously very actually probably foundational to the forming of your business, but
Oh, of
uh,
course.
so as you started to put the pieces together for top tier lessons, what what side did you attack first? Like the getting college athletes on board or like going to recruit customers?
Believe it or not, neither. So what we attacked first was finding a location for the lessons to be held. So we also
Mm.
source so Top Tier Lessons for an online platform that matches college student athletes with parents looking for sports lessons for their kids. So basically, you get to come on, you browse the selection of athletes in the area, and you're able to book a lesson then and there with a college athlete near you. We handle the venue, payment, scheduling, and safety of each lesson, so streamlining the entire process. So we knew that we had a great supply of college athletes. We knew that there were parents who wanted lessons, but for us to be able to provide the best experience, the safest experience for all involved, we sourced the venue first. The first thing that we tackled was actually going to it was the Urbana Park District and working with them to gain access to the pool. So we'd be able to coach swim lessons. So it was venues first. And then we kicked off the very earliest stage of the business. We hosted a free swim clinic for kids in the community, staffed by my teammates who really came out. They volunteered their time to be able to coach lessons on top tier. And so with that, we kicked that off, and that was kind of a joint effort of bringing athletes on platforms so we had a consistent supply, and then hosting the clinic in order to drum up some very early demand, run our very first test pilot, essentially validate that this company could be something. There was demand. So we made our first dollar before writing a line of code. This was all done with Eventbrite and a spreadsheet, genuinely just proving that there is something that matters. There is something that people are willing to pay us at least a dollar for the value that we're going to bring.
And what's your angle? Like, what are the perks of someone's children getting a lesson from a college athlete as opposed to just anybody else? Not to trash other people.
No, not at all. But on the improvement side, you're gaining access to truly the forefront of what training is like there. On top of that, it's cool, right? These kids, they're gaining more than just a coach. They're getting role models, they're gaining mentors, they're gaining people who really inspire confidence and excitement and love for the sport because you don't become a college athlete without loving your sport. You don't sign up for grueling 5 a.m. wake ups and doubles outside of school and everything else if you don't love the sport. It doesn't matter any of the external factors, but that is the underlying piece. So we have a supply of phenomenal coaches who are at the peak and at the forefront of everything new that's happening in the sport, who love what they do, and they're young enough that they really do remember, what it was like to be 7, 8, 9, 12 years old and what it means to be coached by someone who you look up to. And we're able to create that experience and turn it into something that is able to be essentially purchased on our platform. So we view this more as it's more than just a lesson, right? You're buying an experience, an opportunity, and you're really putting in an injection of confidence into the kid who's taking that lesson.
Oh, yeah. Confidence is so key in everything, but also that should be your slogan about it's really cool. Like it is cool. Like it's kind of like to get exposure to these college athletes like that and learn from somebody who's like in the thick of it and how competitive college sports are. And people always say like every college athletics team is like the all-star team from high school athletes, and then professional it's almost like the all-star team of college like it's the degree of competition increase and how serious and disciplined you have to be is just literally on another level. So it's unbelievable to get access to that and learn from mentors, as you said, not that far removed from being in your shoes as a kid looking to learn this. So you mentioned that first, like the early days of the swim lessons, like your team is coming to help out, you're in one location. How did you start to expand to multiple locations, which I know you're at a few now and have big, bold visions for expanding greatly over the next couple of years?
So for us, we built the entire business in a consistent iterative process, right? We would go out, we would build something, no matter what it was, whether it was a spreadsheet or an MVP version or our first official launch for the product. We would go build it, we'd put it in the market, we'd test it, we'd measure the results, we'd reiterate on it and move that forward. So the first thing, that's what we talked about with the swim clinic, that was Eventbrite in a spreadsheet. Then that April, we expanded it to more sports, right? So we did basketball, we added in soccer, we brought in football. So different sports in the Champaign community, and we switched everything fully online. So now it looked a little bit more like the platform that you see today. So we were able to test it with something other than just the sport that I knew so well. So from there, we actually then pushed out just for February into Chicago was our next market. We were operating in Champaign. It's a smaller city, a little bit more of a rural area. And so we said, all right, let's go up to Evanston. Let's go to Northwestern. Let's go to Lake Forest College. Let's hit the north suburbs of Chicago. Let's see the differences there. So for us, we followed the same kind of rinse and repeat process. We went in, we found venues. We work with park districts, cities, YMCA's, 44 different locations across 3 cities right now. And so we work with them first. We set up community programming, free and low cost events to improve accessibility to these opportunities and experiences for kids around the community. And with that, we reach out to the athletes. We can convert 40% of a roster in about a week from bringing them on platform. And then we just go ahead and we launch our market. So with that way, it helps us. Right now, we're in a process where we're in 3 markets, so Champaign, Chicago, and Cincinnati. And we're on the way to be launching. It's a staggered launch over the next 5 months of 20 of the largest cities across the country. And so for us, we're there and we're testing and we're trying still in each market we push out. We see what the differences are. We see that this event worked really, really well. What about this opportunity? Hell, we've put up yard signs, right? On street corners. We have done it all into moving into new markets. So it really is an iterative process and it's just venues come on, then we kick off supply and demand at relatively similar times, with supply staggered slightly before the demand kickoff.
Well, I noticed that your first few cities all start with C, and
They do.
I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally, so I'll recommend Cleveland. Throw my name in the hat for Cleveland as well. It is crazy the amount of cities, big cities that start with C in Ohio and Midwest in general. I'll say, but that's so exciting. It's almost like you're launching a new business. Like every time you launch a new city like that, like what has been the biggest learning curve like each time you launch a new location, if you will?
It's honestly been so far the differences with like parents' schedules. Student athletes are relatively consistent across the country. They have set seasons, they have school. We know what those stressors are, we know how that works. The biggest thing that we've really learned and figured out is that there's differences in scheduling. There's differences in how early parents want to sign up for lessons. There's differences in, is this something that they're looking to make a staple as a recurring lesson, or are they looking to, hit four over the summer in between seasons? And so that's been one of the things that we've been like, oh, this is really cool. And watching that transform market to market, we really only have three data points for that right now. So we're excited to see how we can take those data points and really push that out. But, we can't give enough props to, we brought on campus directors. So we have 20 campus directors now. They're exceptional student athletes who are leading the charge for top tier lessons in their home markets, in their home schools. And they're on the ground for us and they're doing amazing work so far. So that's been a really pleasant opportunity, one, to be able to build a cohort of leaders across the country in different sports, different areas, doing different things with different experiences. We have everything in terms of majors, backgrounds, opportunity to bring on together. And so that's been just amazing to watch and see and grow. And we're only about a month into that. So we can't wait to continue and watch that just blossom and grow.
It's hot off the press. Well, it's
It
super
is, it
exciting.
is.
You mentioned so many different. I mean, there's the campus directors, and then there's just like everybody who does lessons. Like, there's so many amazing college athletes involved. What do you look for in college athletes who are considering becoming part of the top tier lessons family?
Initiative, truly. It is, we don't look at resumes. We don't look at past experiences in terms of, have you published four academic papers or, won a hackathon or done anything like that. We look first and foremost for initiative. We look for people who are going to be able to take an instruction and actually go forward and do something with it. We find that those are the most valuable people for honestly any facet of the company. They have to be willing, one, to learn, will be there, will help teach, will help grow, but they also have to be willing to teach themselves. We look for problem solvers, not problem finders. So that's a big thing in our company. If there's a problem, if there's something that someone's trying to figure out, we don't want them to draw a big circle around it, go waving a red flag and say, help, help, there's a problem. What do I do? We expect that these people will come to us and they'll say, hey, this is a problem. I've identified the problem. Here are two or three solutions that I have to the problem. I think we should go with solution B because of X, Y, and Z. And then we can say, awesome, let's do it. And then they'll turn around, they'll actually be able to go out and solve the problem. Of course, that changes depending on like week one versus 6 months in. There's different levels of autonomy and just independence that come with that. But that is first and foremost the biggest thing we look for in top tier because we're too small of a team to be able to solve 100 problems off of 20 different markets and push that forward. So there is a high degree of independence, autonomy, confidence in themselves, ability to learn, grow, and push forward. And we've found that that comes from any major, any background, any person that has the initiative to be able to take something and grow it and has the excitement to care about what we're doing, to want to bring it to their space. And so, yeah, I mean, that's true across all roles, whether it's our youngest intern to bringing in a senior role.
So part of the job application is not, to my surprise, like 40-yard dash, 40-meter sprint in the pool, physical
Well,
test
we
to the
see
outdoor.
this could be fun because I think we have a few track athletes. They'd wipe the floor with the rest of us, but then you put us in a boat. We have rowers. They'd kill the rest of us, or and then you put us on a court, and we're all screwed by everyone else. They're on a field or something like that. So I mean, it would be fun. Maybe we'll do like a big combine for the campus directors, bring them all together. We'll have just different points, almost like Boy Scout camp or something like that for everyone, maybe. But for now, it is really more just the initiative piece that we look forward with. We're lucky enough that a lot of those skills are things that college athletes have been doing and learning and, practicing day after day after day. So things like hard work, things like time management, those soft skills we don't have to teach because for the most part, people are coming in and those are ingrained in who they are at this point.
You're building, in addition to just a killer team of employees, like you're building a killer Olympic team as well, and probably really
That
good
is true.
at
That is
beyond
true.
beyond college, whether they go professional or become incredible at intramural and rec league and all that as well. Maybe one of the most athletic companies in the world, so pretty cool.
Yeah, our
But
corporate pickleball team will
there you
absolutely
go.
smack.
Exactly, smacking pickleballs. But actually, with your current team, how much of the team is like technically full time versus, I don't know if you consider them freelancers or interns? Yeah, like that sort of makeup.
Yeah, so we have three core team members. So that's the core team members that are really working internally for top tier, either are full time or will be full time in the near future. Out of that, two of us are officially full time. We actually both graduated together this spring. So back,
Well,
what is that, like
congrats on
six
that.
months ago,
Yeah,
maybe? Thank you,
yeah,
thank
crazy.
you.
Yeah, this is like you're, most people, it's like the get smacked in the face with the real world and like find a job somewhere, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna make the job and create jobs for other people too.
No, it was definitely, we were lucky enough to be able to take the company full time post grad. So I'm really excited to have that opportunity to expand and grow it as well.
And then, what's sort of the qualifications for athletes that are going to become trainers and mentors? Like, do you have like a, hey, you got to be with us for a semester or a year or anything like that? Or like, how's it work in terms of their time commitment?
So they have very flexible time commitments. They're able to go on site, click join as a coach, type out a quick bio. We have some safety verification, third party background check services that we have to go through for them. But they actually list their own time availability week to week, the same way you'd fill out a calendar when to meet. So
Hmm.
because of that, we're able to offer flexible lesson scheduling for almost 7 days of the week on the parent side. And for the athletes, they're able to say, hey, I'm in season right now. I don't want to coach more than 2, 3 hours a week. And so they can simply say Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour. And that's the availability that shows up on the parent side. So it's something that they actively manage. They continue to push forward because it works for their flexible schedule. It's hard as a college athlete to hold a typical 9 to 5 job where you're walking in and you're expected to be here at 9 and leave here at 5. And sorry if you've practiced, figure it out. So for us, we did
Right.
create this dynamic scheduling system in a way that allowed the college student athletes to be able to do what they love on their own time in a way that doesn't interfere with their season and, help them pay rent each month where there is that supplemental stream of income for them.
That flexibility, that's spot on. Like, that's so key. I feel like you need, like when anybody thinks of, serious athletes or college athletes, you think about the crazy time demands that comes with it. And so that's brilliant that like you're providing that for that. You're giving them the option, fellow athletes to pick their own hours with that. But in addition, like the other side of that is like, it's a way for them to make money as well. Like how does it work? At least currently, I know it's probably NIL's changing like every day. But how does it work in terms of like the ins and outs of like, hey, you're allowed to make money as a college athlete doing something like this these days?
Yeah, so I mean, each lesson essentially counts as one NIL deal. And really,
Oh,
they're allowed to do it the same way that you would be able to do it. So NIL basically just gave college student athletes the same rights that a normal college student would have, right? So it
which is like
didn't,
crazy when you
there's
think about
nothing
it. It's like it's
special
about
or
time.
fancy.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is. So there's nothing crazy special about it when you look at it from that perspective. There's a lot of big words, a lot of jargon, but most fundamentally, it gave college student athletes the right to make money like a normal person off of who they are. The same way that if your podcast starts to take off, you're going to be able to make money off of your podcast. Now, a student athlete could make their podcast and make money off of that the exact same way. So there is some reporting stuff that has to be done where you basically just tell the school, hey, I made this much money doing this deal, doing this. And that's more for just reporting purposes for the school to make sure that there's nothing shady, underhanded going on. I'm not going to give you $200,000 for a wave, right? So like there's like little things like but there are stuff because for like an appearance you could make that much by your value add, right? So when Caitlin Clark was still in school back in Iowa, if she was going to do an appearance, it would not be unwarranted for that to be worth $100,000, right? So it does need to be kind of realistic, but at the same time, not necessarily. So for most college athletes, life goes on as normal.
Perfect. And when you stumbled into that because we pay every podcast guest $200,000 per wave. So thank you. That was a good thing you waved. But one day maybe.
I'll expect the wire soon. But yes.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q and A. And if you're just listening, Cara is waving left and right like crazy. No, I'm just kidding.
Always,
But
always.
yeah, no. All right. Rapid fire Q and A. You ready for it?
Ready for it.
All right. Let's get wild. What was the most grueling part of your swim routine practice schedule as a college athlete, college swimmer?
5 a.m. wake up.
How often was that?
Well, it was 5:30 and every day of the week, except for Sundays. Sundays were off.
Wow. That okay, I'm tired. I'm tired and sore. Thank you for that. All right. I heard that you were one of five siblings, correct?
I am the oldest.
The oldest of five. What what did that teach you growing up in an environment like that, and also being the oldest in that environment?
Probably a little more independent than I would have been if I was an only child. There's a lot of, I think, mentorship and just teaching. I love to teach. I enjoy it. And I think a lot of that came from, growing up being that person to my younger siblings.
Oh yeah, that's really nice. It's funny when you think about it because you think about only child has the opportunity to be more independent, but actually the role that you had, it's swapped. Really interesting. Um, what is the hardest swimming stroke in the world?
My opinion is backstroke, without a doubt. Most
Mm.
people will tell you butterfly. I think butterfly is the easiest if you train it correctly.
And what makes backstroke the hardest then?
Oh, it kills you. I think 200 backstroke, that's 8 laps backstroke, is the most difficult event. And that's coming from me. And I swim the 400 IM, the mile, and the 200 fly, which stereotypically those are not fun events to have. But backstroke, you can sprint even just 1 lap backstroke and you're exhausted by the
Mm.
end. And I think that's unique to that stroke.
And your swimming career, I mean, they like not to give you too big of a head, but like I know you've been captain of the swim team, like you've done really really well. I'm curious, like when you set like a new personal best or like win a big meet or something like that, like as you're in the moment, as you're swimming in the water right there, like can you tell you're like, wow, I'm at a really good pace here? Like does something feel different when it's works out like that?
It does. It definitely does. I don't know if you've ever gone on like a long run or something like that, but when you're working out, there's a point where you just hit that rhythm and you hit a pace, and I mean, you're exhausted. You feel like death, but you're so excited because you have that adrenaline and you're looking around and the water's smooth to the left and right of you. So you know that there aren't people there and you're up ahead and you're leading and you're pushing. Or I like to play catch, cat and mouse a little bit. And I like to be back by the earliest hit, but then come back in the last, 50 or 100 and try and out touch people. So I mean, there's a lot of spaces all over the place, but in the moment you do normally know, you can tell that things are going really, really well. It doesn't always end up that way because you don't know until you touch the wall and you see the clock or figure out exactly what's going on. And sometimes you feel great and it was not a good swim, or sometimes you feel terrible and all of a sudden that was the best swim of your entire life. But a lot of the times there's some good races where everything just clicks.
In that moment, that inflection point of like, you know what, this feels good. Do people call it a swimmer's high? Because I know there's a runner's high.
I don't know if I've heard that term in swimming,
All right, we could coin it right here.
honestly, but
Perfect.
it's the same. I'd say it's pretty similar to runner's high, but swimming is, I mean, compared to like runner's high that normally hits like 5K, 10K, you're going crazy distances. I feel like swimming is always a lot shorter than running. I mean, our longest event, if you don't count open water, which is when you swim like 5, 10, 20K in a lake, is, at most you're going like 16, 17, 18 minutes. That's the mile, right? So there's not as much time, but you can even feel that in a 50 freestyle. From the minute you dive in, it just feels good.
Oh, that's awesome. It just feels nice hearing about it. Well, last one. This is very corny, but Illinois, it's got, yeah, Champaign is the town, or I guess one of the towns at least. But it, when I was a freshman at IU and sophomore year, we had a basketball point guard named Verdell Jones, who actually was from Champaign, but he went to Indiana, which I know, controversial. But also, we were really big on the song at the time, or the Thrill by Wiz Khalifa, and in that song they say "addicted to champagne." So every time they announce Verdell Jones the third out of Champaign, Illinois, like my friend Alex and I would be like addicted to champagne because it's in the song. Anyway, all that besides the point. Um, do any like bars and restaurants like play up the whole champagne pun? Like, is there like a champagne bar in Champagne or anything like that?
There is not. Believe it or
Oh,
not, there is
missed opportunity.
no pun that really pops in with Urbana Champagne. Well, really with Champagne. As funny as it is, when I mean I'm from South Carolina, right? So
Yeah.
everyone was like, Illinois, what's Illinois? What was going up
Why is there
there?
an S on the end?
You mean Chicago is in Illinois? What? Illinois.
Right.
Sorry. Yes, no, very funny with that one. And yeah, whenever I was like, yeah, I'm going to school, it's in the town called Champaign, Champaign Urbana, Urbana Champaign, however you choose to say it. They were like, oh, like the drink? And no. And then I went to Champaign and no, no mention, never, nothing to do with that. I mean, maybe that's a missed business opportunity. To anyone listening in the area, time to start it up, right? There's an
I think so.
opportunity there.
I think so. Maybe even a student athlete who's a senior or grad student could start it. We'll see. But awesome. Well, Cara, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I just absolutely love what you're doing. Super, super cool business and excited to see it grow and continue to grow. Thanks again for coming on. And where's the best place if somebody wants to connect, learn more about top tier lessons and follow along? Where's the best place to do that?
LinkedIn would be great. I'm normally on there quite a bit. It's just Cara Bognar. So pretty easy to find me. I should be probably one of the only people that pop up there. Not too many people have my name. So would love for you guys to reach out, shoot me a message. Always happy to connect.
Perfect. I actually have an interview right after this with a Bara Cogner. So that's no, I'm just going. That was
I
terrible.
was like, really?
You're like, God, I can't wait to hop off of here. No, perfect. Last thing, final thoughts. It could be a quote. It could be like, locker room words of wisdom, inspiration, whatever you want. Send us home here.
Hmm, that's a good one. Let's see. I would say I'll give you guys my favorite quote. It's Martin Luther King. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But no matter what, keep moving forward. That's how I try and live my life. That's how I try and run the company. So that's my favorite quote.
Bring on the bongos!